I remember when I first saw his application. That genius. It was mind-blowing. His work was far better than the others. More specific and written in the most intelligent way, with such content that made us all just look at each other with big eyes. His idea? Just brilliant. A smart, simple, fast way to communicate all around the world using the internet. Sending text messages between people like you and me and being able to read it instantly. I mean, this was huge. This sort of communication didn't exist yet. Summer '94, we were nerds sitting up late on the net all the time, and this was exactly what we needed. And there were many, many more people like us. It required loads of work to get it ready to use, but it was all there. He'd written it all. The programming, the design, and how to market the service. I knew this guy from the age of climbing trees. A sharp, funny, creative guy just packed with good ideas. But this was by far the best one. The one that should have gotten him into that school. Too bad this never came true, and I feel sad for him. I just wish that I could have done something to prevent his misery. So, you might wonder what the hell I'm doing on dirt roads in Micronesia. I'll tell you. Because of that application, that creative task. The one he sent to Stockholm's by then most respected and established media school 19 years ago. That creative task, or his creative task, that would later send 2 stinking copycat jury members working on the school he applied for to the US, and straight to the top index list of world's entrepreneurs, making them world famous for launching what would be one of the internet's most used services. The application that changed my friend's life forever, and sent him to the most isolated places filled with despair and a newfound fear of being rejected, used, and deceived. As he might have already figured out, he was not accepted to the school. A major backlash that he never expected and couldn't handle. With his mind focused on not being good enough and with sudden made-up thoughts that everybody would hear about his defeat, he fled into himself. He couldn't take it. After a while, he completely lost it. Saw no other way out than leaving everything and everybody behind and disappearing to the most remote place, far beyond big cities, or far beyond anybody's reach. It took me years and years of work to figure out where he'd gone. I started out by questioning all the people he left behind. Family, distant relatives, airport staff. I was thinking of giving it up many times. Not a single hint or clue. Didn't know what to think anymore. Maybe I was also becoming a loony, I constantly asked myself. Somewhere in between forgetting him and moving on with my own life, I found new strength, new hope. It was obvious. He told no one where he'd gone, and the answer could only be found in our shared past. I did some serious thinking and started to mind map all his possible destinations. Surprisingly, after some time, clues started to flow inside my head, and they led me to one place in particular. My journey began. I can assure you that this wasn't easy. With a motorbike, a pack of smokes, and a dictionary, I traveled around these deserted islands. Of course, you had to choose a group of almost 1,000 islands just to make sure not to be found. What a genius. Micronesia. Took me months just to get there, but I was determined. I was going to find him. There was no chance I would leave this place without him. Miles and miles and miles of empty shoreline led me to small villages. Armed with an old folded guy, I asked my way around. Then, all of a sudden, I stumbled upon a trace. A nice old crumpled lady reached in her bag and handed me a small, round-shaped black tin and told me someone forgot this. A box of snus. Marked with peeled-off paper forming the symbol of eternity. After all these years, he was still doing it. This was definitely his. For the first time in my life, I cried over tobacco. I kept going. Later, I met people that said they'd actually seen him, and some could point me in directions. I tried one, and then promptly I froze. I couldn't believe my eyes. On a poor staircase to what seemed to be a construction site, there was a man sitting with a laptop in his knee. That man was once my best friend. Warmth spread in my body, and there was an indescribable psychedelic reaction in my head. I was delighted and happy, but at the same time I felt anger for what he'd done and for where he'd taken me. I was afraid of meeting him. 19 years had passed. I had to calm down. I had to give it some more time. Like a stalker, I followed him, giving me time to prepare my appearance and hopefully what would be our meeting. Couldn't get a hold of exactly what he was doing out here. Maybe he'd gone insane for real. I mean, I didn't know shit. Really, the thought gave me the chills. At last, we met. The second our eyes made contact, I had a soothing feeling in my body. He was alright. He seemed like he was already aware of my presence. Loudly, he asked me to sit down, so we talked. Hours turned to days, days to weeks. My company really seemed to please him. There was so much to be said. He was still the genius I once knew, and I couldn't possibly be more happy. After all these years, the two of us, it was just beyond words. During these months in Micronesia, we were able to reconnect in such a way I never would have imagined. Long discussions concerning, more specifically, what turned him to the present man he now was, and how he dealt with it. The application, the stolen idea, the rejection. It was obvious that the fear and lack of trust of people had hurt him. It was always going to be deeply rooted, but still, he could talk about it, and so we did. Day by day, we reached what I thought was major progress in dealing with his fear of ever returning back. I believe this is where my journey ends, and hopefully where another one begins. With my friend left behind, I'm now on my way back to the mainland, hoping to make it in time. Holding in my hand the proof that any great fear can be conquered. I must say that this was my life's greatest adventure. As for now, part of an agreement we made, I hereby present to you his application. Theodore Lindholm, Digital Media and Interactive Art Director on Hyper Island, Fall 2013.